Why I regret spending 9 years playing Destiny and why it's too late to quit. I'm curious.
Game that I have over
Okay. Over 2,000 hours. He is in fact a Destiny player.
And what do I have to show for it? Complaints.
No game is perfect, but it isn't until you play thousands of hours of a game that you realize just how not perfect it is. Disclaimer, I'm a complete idiot and have no clue what I'm talking about, so please do not treat any of this senseless rambling as meaningful or valuable.
I love that disclaimer because I feel like this disclaimer shouldn't even be necessary. I feel like this should just be a base understanding in any internet conversation or any internet opinion. You don't have to care about it. Right? If he says he hates the game, that doesn't mean I have to hate the game. My analysis of a game being good should not be contingent on other people also thinking it's good. So, like, I feel like this disclaimer should just be like a baseline thing for everything on the internet.
Unless you agree with it, then I was dead serious.
Okay. Well,
after playing for 9 years and thousands of hours, I have never made a friend playing this game.
Off to a good start.
9 years and you haven't made a single... Okay, I feel... This guy might be kind of toxic. I don't want to make any assumptions, but if you've been playing Destiny 2 for 9 years and you haven't friended a single person, I feel like that's kind of on you. I feel like that's you not making the effort to try and make friends.
Sure, it takes some effort to make friends, but to not make any after 9 years of playing should take even more effort. I type in chat and PvP, I've done LFGs, I've added people as Steam friends, but we never really feel like playing together. Why? Well, I typically have a bunch of boring stuff that I need to do and they don't, and vice versa. Playing boring stuff with a friend can be fun, but not so much if it's somebody you've only just met. The best way to play Destiny 2 is with friends that you've already made from somewhere else, because, simply put, Destiny 2 isn't a great friend-making environment.
I would say that's like kind of true. So I've had this weird take on Destiny for a while, which again, this is a take from someone who's played 5,000 hours of Destiny 2. So like take this with a huge grain of salt. I feel like the game as a whole has gotten significantly easier to the point where having friends to play with isn't nearly as necessary. So like back in the day when I very first started playing Destiny, I started back in the Taken King in Destiny 1, and you kind of had to go out of your comfort zone. You kind of had to go make friends if you wanted to progress through the endgame echelons of the game, because the only way that you were getting through those raids, through King's Falls, through hard mode King's Falls and stuff like that, is if you actually went out of your way to like develop relationships with people and meet people and consistently play with them to work on your teamwork to be able to actually overcome these great challenges that were in the game. Whereas now you kind of look at LFG and everyone's doing like no mic Root of Nightmares. That was unfathomable back in the OG Destiny days. Like to do a Destiny raid without a microphone, without doing any communications with anyone on your entire team, that was completely unfathomable. So I feel like the lowering difficulty of the game over time has kind of resulted in a lower requirement to be able to make friends. I think it's great that solo play is more accessible for people that just prefer to play solo, but it has kind of had this like unintended effect where it's a lot harder to make friends in Destiny naturally because you don't really have to talk to people anymore.
Not because the community is toxic, but because the game is. You may argue against this since it is in your best interest to have friends in this game. You'll need them for raiding or high-end PvP. But me and many other players instead choose to do what they can alone rather than struggle to make friends. I have put myself out there many times, but the anxiety was never really worth it.
For example, one day I decided I was going to do a raid, so I signed up for a group finder and found a group.
We were going to do the very first raid in Destiny 2, which is also obviously the lowest level. Here's the thing, raids ultimately have nothing to do with your level, your gear, your shooting skills, or anything else you've been building up thus far.
Okay, wait, I feel like raids definitely have something to do with your gear and your shooting skills. Your level, maybe not really. The level's kind of like a prerequisite to be able to walk into the raid. So like, I guess you could argue that your level's not like super relevant in your raid. But, like your gear and your shooting skills, I would say like those are two of the very most important things for like raids and dungeons and stuff like that. So I don't really know what that's all about.
All about confusing communication puzzles. You look at this guy and have to remember the symbol and tell the other person in the alternate dimension which symbol it is, and then punch him or something. I don't even remember, but it has nothing to do with shooting or looting.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like the Leviathan mechanics where you have to like communicate symbols across to each other and they have to do things in different realms based on the symbols. Yeah, it's undeniably harder than like the mechanics we have nowadays in Root of Nightmares where it's just one person can basically do everything on their own. I feel like working together and having that synergy and communicating with other people is part of the fun. That's how you make friends, is by like bonding together, because you're doing things together. You're relying on each other. You require teamwork. That's how you make friends.
Yes, I want to make friends, but I don't really feel like playing the telephone game with a bunch of strangers that are only playing with me because they want gear at the end, and whenever I mess up, I'm keeping them in an activity that they didn't want to be playing in the first place. This is an awful environment for making friends.
I feel like he kind of contradicted himself a little. I don't know. Like, for me, don't get me wrong, because I've been an avid LFG gamer, and I still do a lot of LFG. And there are certainly some horrible, horrible people on LFG where if you make a mistake once, they act like you ruined their entire year, stepped on their pet dog, dropped their pizza on the floor. There's people like that for sure. But generally speaking, in my experience in LFG, I have found that I have always gotten out of LFG what I put in. If I walk into LFG and I'm incredibly understanding and I'm incredibly willing to teach and I'm, willing to say like, oh, hey, how can I contribute what I know and what I'm able to put forth to the table into our success in this raid. If I go in with that attitude and I go in with like, hey, we're all humans here, hey, we have the same common goal. Let's get through this together. Let's be nice to each other. Let's help each other. It's always gone beautifully.
Imagine Mario Party, a game already known for destroying friendships. Then imagine there's a cash prize and you're playing with strangers. Somebody's gonna get shot.
What are you talking about, Mario Party? Mario Party, you literally play against the people you are trying to beat the people you are playing against in Mario Party. In Destiny, you're working together with them to beat the computers. That section kind of lost me, but I don't know.
Mentally conscious company, and so they have decided to keep Destiny 2 environmentally friendly by reducing, reusing, and recycling their content.
Oh no. Oh, I'm gonna agree with this one. I can tell you already. I know what direction we're going here.
Remember when it came back? Well, here it is again. Wow, thanks. I remember when I had that. Matter of fact, I'm still using it. To give you an idea of how bad this has gotten, here are some hand cannons. And here are some shotguns. I'm not even arguing that every weapon should have a unique model,
God.
but it's pretty disappointing when a new hand cannon comes out and it looks like better devils from year one.
Obviously, weapons with new models are better than reskinned weapons, but like honestly, that's not even the biggest issue to me. The biggest issue to me is that in the current state of Destiny, and as we move forward and we get new weapons every season or we get new weapons every expansion, they all ultimately feel the same because they all have basically the same perk pools. They're all the same archetypes. This is the orange version of the gun and this is the purple version of the gun. A much bigger focus for me that would help make every gun feel like it's its own gun and give it unique perks, like give it a different fire rate than other guns that also look similar to it, things of that nature. Like make the gameplay of these guns feel truly different. Whatever.
There's a lot I could talk about in regards to Bungie's content hamster wheel, but I'll just tell you about a particular incident that I'm not too...
What? Why does bro have a full vault page of Sunset 18 Kelvins? Who is this guy?
Back in 2020, I think, a DLC released called Beyond Light. This added some cool ice magic, and an ice planet, and other ice-related things. I thought that this was one of the best DLCs to date. The added mechanics were cool, the weapons were pretty good, I liked the raid, the story sucked, which for Destiny standards is actually really good. But there was one little issue. They removed like half of the content that the game had accumulated. Hundreds of weapons had their power locked at the floor, and several planets were removed entirely, bringing their campaigns and gear with them.
If I was a time traveler, one thing I could do in this universe, it would be to go back to Beyond Light 6 months before Beyond Light or a year before Beyond Light, somehow teleport into the Bungie offices and say, I can't give you all the details right now. Do not DCV. Don't do it. My biggest problem with the DCV, where like basically 50% of the game was removed, it was removed under the pretense, we need to reduce the file size of the game. That doesn't make any sense to me. Because Destiny was like 120 gigabytes, which is like, that's a pretty decent size for a game, but like, In 2023, a AAA game, 120 gigabytes, cheapest version of Xbox and PlayStations ship with like a terabyte internal storage. You can have 10 Destiny 2s on your Xbox. Like, and if you run out of space, you spend $50 on an external hard drive for an extra 2 terabytes of space. You know, sure, maybe there was a guy who, you know, had a PC that he built in 2014, 20 gigabytes of space, and they were like, oh, I want to play Destiny. It's like, dude, if you want to play modern day games, you need to have modern day storage solutions. So, like, I don't really get that issue. And the other issue, the main reason Bungie said they were doing this is because they said it would improve game performance. Wasn't Beyond Light the expansion where, like, everybody's frame rates got destroyed? Since then, we've had like server issues nonstop. I feel like all of the reasons Bungie gave for the Destiny content vault weren't actually really true or didn't really make sense. All the things they put in the Destiny content vault, we're just getting back as the new seasonal content. And I know some of it's technically free, but like still, why remove it all in the first place if you were just going to stick it back in 2 years later? Like it doesn't really make sense to me. Like I would much rather if they were just like, hey, we'll just leave it. And then instead of doing like a reskinned Leviathan Castellum for Season of the Haunted, we'll do like an actually new space for Season of the Haunted. Like, I don't know.
But don't you worry, that content will be back with a vengeance and a price tag.
In fairness, I don't think Bungie has charged money for anything that they re-added to the game that they previously took out. Credit where it's due. They haven't charged us for anything that they brought back yet, so... But, you know, we'll see.
Then Beyond Light launches for $40. The next expansion is a bit of a controversy, Witch Queen. Now, this retails for $40, but if you buy the deluxe edition for $80, twice the price, you get 2 extra dungeons and some cosmetics and stuff.
Witch Queen was goated. And there's a lot of theories out there that Witch Queen was supposed to ship with Strand as well. Witch Queen would be up there along with like Forsaken and Taken King if Witch Queen actually launched with Strand, that instead of interacting with all like the deep site stuff, it was actually supposed to be like the Strand things that we interacted with in Lightfall. Additionally, on the Warlock Throne World armor set, I think, there's like the icon on the chest for the Warlock Strand Super.
Dungeons have never been deluxe content. They are some of the highest quality pieces of late game content and have always been included with the already highly priced DLC. But now you need to get that premium deluxe extra cheesy version if you want to actually play the DLC.
I never thought about that. So Shattered Throne was just part of Forsaken. Pit of Heresy was just part of Shadowkeep. But now the dungeons aren't part of DLCs anymore. There was no dungeon that came with Witch Queen. There was no dungeon that came with Lightfall. So that's kind of interesting that, so like in a way, what we used to pay $40 for to get a full expansion with, you know, a new destination, a raid, and a dungeon, we have to pay $40 for the raid and new expansion, and then another $20 for the dungeon, total $60. I guess the dungeon releases a season later though, and like, I don't know. It's kind of nitty gritty. Honestly, at this point, like dungeons more than I like raids. I don't know how many people share that opinion. I'll happily pay $20 for a dungeon anytime. Let me know what you guys like better, dungeons versus raids, because like I'm actually curious what the split on that is.
Otherwise, you're basically playing a demo. But aside from that, the DLC gets good reviews and people like the story for some reason. Then a tragedy happens, the release of the currently newest DLC, Lightfall. The standard edition is now $50, a new record high for Destiny DLC. But wait, there's another version for $100, and it's got dungeons.
So, in my book, Lightfall is a $100 DLC, which also has a cheaper, handicapped $50 version.
Well, at least it's good. For 33% of reviewers. The chief complaint here is the story.
Okay, if Destiny players are saying the story is bad, I think you're in the wrong industry.
But I actually forgot to mention one expansion. In December of 2021, Bungie had its 30th birthday, and as a birthday present, Bungie demanded 25 USD in exchange for some cool stuff. The main features here were a dungeon, which was very broken, and I think still is.
I don't know if you can call a dungeon broken just because people can do oobs in it. Dude, you can go out of bounds in pretty much any Destiny activity in the entire game if you know what you're looking for. I don't think that makes it broken. Listen, Grasp of Avarice, that servitor encounter, is super boring. I'll be the first to admit that. But like, calling the dungeon broken, Grasp of Avarice functions properly. I don't know. If you want to look at something that's broken, look at the Root of Nightmare's little thruster pads in the second encounter. Those are broken.
So how much has a Destiny veteran paid so far? Adding up the price of every DLC, with the 2 most recent being deluxe editions since they include vital content, and adding all 12 paid season passes since they include essential content as well, we come out at $710 US. Plus tax, it's well over 750. That's enough money to buy 116 pounds of Swedish fish.
I don't know, man. I feel like that's not like the biggest deal in the world. That's a shocking statement right off the bat. But like, dude, $700 over 6 years, 7 years, however long we've been in Destiny 2, that's not like the most ridiculous thing in the entire world. Let's say we've been playing Destiny for 6 years, $750 divided by 6, you pay $125 for Destiny a year. What I always do is I call it the movie comparison. Entertainment value to the cost of a movie ticket, right? So if a movie ticket is $15 and I go watch a 3-hour movie, that means I consider an hour of entertainment to be worth $5. So if I'm paying $50 for a Destiny DLC, did it give me at least 10 hours of entertainment? 10 hours of gameplay worth of entertainment? If the answer is yes, then yeah, it's tough to say that that's objectively not worth it for me. I'm sure everyone has their own metric, right? And don't get me wrong, I wouldn't say Lightfall's a good expansion. I think Lightfall is the worst expansion when you look at it. Well, maybe not worse than Curse of Osiris, right? But Lightfall is one of the worst when it comes to modern day Destiny expansions. Is it giving you 4 hours worth of entertainment for $50? No, it's still giving you whatever. I mean, we're all still playing it right now, so I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Or 168 gallons of Dr. Pepper. Or you could buy a laptop or something, but still, that's a lot of money to invest without getting a single Swedish fish in return. Oh, and they all...
He is right, though, about the Swedish. I potentially a hot take. I think Swedish fish are amazing. Potentially hotter take, which I feel like this is the most controversial candy on the planet. Milk duds, masterpiece. I feel like you either love milk duds or you think that they are the worst thing on the planet. There's no in between. Same with Swedish fish.
Destiny 2's story sucks. There are countless holes in plots and weird caveats that don't really need to be there. No character development, no risk. The only campaign that felt like it had real weight was the base Destiny 2 campaign, which had high stakes and almost decent characters and a fantastic soundtrack.
I can agree with that. I feel like most of the campaigns have felt very plot armory, where it's I never feel like we're in any danger in any capacity. Whereas the vanilla Destiny 2 campaign, which is a tragedy because I feel like so many people watching this right now might not have even played it. They don't even know what they missed out on. That campaign was insane from a feeling perspective. The environment it put you in, the narrative it strung you along. It was an amazing campaign. The Forsaken campaign was pretty good as well as the post-campaign narrative with Riven taking over the city and putting the curse on the Dreaming City. That was also very, very good. But I feel like, the Shadowkeep campaign, Beyond Light campaign, Lightfall campaign, kind of Witch Queen was okay too. The music.
And a fantastic soundtrack.
I'm just gonna shut up.
But it's gone now. That's right.
Jeez! Scared me. It is gone now, though. He's right. It's a tragedy. Not to make people jealous who missed out on the Red War. When I played the intro to Destiny 2 and I heard that music right after we lost our light and we were kind of stumbling through the fields and just kind of trying to figure out, what we were going to do. We just lost. I was shedding tears. That's how good that music was. This the song is called Journey, as it says at the bottom of the screen,
But it's gone now.
Aside from the explosion.
Right, you can't play the Destiny 2 campaign in Destiny 2 because they got rid of it.
That one exception aside.
Okay, that is a hilarious sentence. You can't play the Destiny 2 campaign in Destiny 2 because they got rid of it. I feel like everything that is wrong with the new light system, which I think is one of the biggest issues plaguing Destiny right now, it doesn't matter how happy you can keep your current players. If you cannot maintain a new player, eventually your existing player base is going to teeter off and then you're left, you need an income of new players. Get rid of this confusing, nonsensical, empty new light system and stick them into the Red War campaign. Stick them into the Curse of Osiris campaign. Stick them into the Warmind campaign. Let them go play the Forsaken campaign. They'll have such a deeper appreciation for the game and then they might actually stick around and we'll have life.
Every campaign is basically, hey, what are those aliens aliens doing over there? They might cause us trouble in the future, let's go get them. And then you go get them. But they save the biggest baddest guy for the 6-player non-matchmaking raid, so you don't even get to accomplish that empty goal unless you have 5 other friends who also play Destiny. And
Okay, this guy hates raids. This guy hates raids with all his heart. They saved the big bad guy for the raid for like most of Destiny, aside from very recently. The big bad dude at the end of the raid was some like no-name random. So like we've had Nezarec and Volk, which are actually important characters, so things have changed up a little bit. But like Tannix, he has no impact on the story whatsoever. Sanctified Mind in the Garden of Salvation, 0 impact on the story. Insurrection Prime, they're nobodies. No one knows who they are. Like they're just these random big weird-looking dudes that we kill. This point seems really weird.
are decently good at it and all have the same 3 to 4 hour time slot to play some stupid raid that's probably not even going to give you the gear you wanted because it's all up to RNG. I can't tell you the amount of times I've nearly had an aneurysm while trying to process one of Bungie's narrative decisions. Like what happened to the other
Who is this guy raiding with? He hates raids. He hates raids and he hates LFG. I know that it's a verifiable fact.
Planets when Beyond Light released. Apparently, some kind of darkness magic from the new ice planet Europa caused us to lose contact with several other planets like Mars. So of course, we go to Europa and play around in the snow, because why should we ever check in on those other planets? I don't know, maybe because Mars is home to the War Mind, which I'm pretty sure is important to the Vanguard because we saved it from a worm god once, but oh well, the power went out. Guess that entire planet is gone forever.
I hate the DCV more than anyone. I hate that we had to like say goodbye to like 5 raids and like a bunch of planets and a bunch of strikes more than anyone. Be angry that the DCV disappeared and not necessarily at like the lore reasons that the planets disappeared, right? Like, it's a space magic game. If the creators of the space magic game say, oh, a bunch of pyramids showed up and the darkness swallowed the planets, it's like, well, dude, we're throwing Nova bombs. So, if they say darkness swallowed the planets, then I guess darkness swallowed the planets, okay? Like, it is what it is. It doesn't really need to make that much sense. Space magic game.
Destiny 1 hooked me with its promise of an ever-expanding looter-shooter MMO set in space. And as I explored it, the scope only seemed to grow. The world felt like it could be hiding so many interesting secrets that I just had to stick around to discover. And I did, for 9 years. And at some points, it almost felt like how I imagined it would. But as time wore on, I became less hopeful that this would ever become what I wanted it to. It had things that I liked briefly, but most of those things have been removed and replaced, not necessarily by something better, but something newer. And that's not just because Bungie is evil and they hate me, it's also because they're making an MMO. This means that no matter what they do, they're going to create that sort of typical MMO trap.
No mantle
Pull
there?
in lots of players early on and
That's
slowly
brutal. I see why I hate
accumulate.
Destiny 2
As
now.
time goes on, the game becomes harder to get into and even harder to get out of. Tend too much to the new players and you'll neglect the truly loyal ones. But the more you cater towards veterans, the less approachable the game becomes. And Bungie's solution to this problem was to constantly trim down fat, which a lot of other MMOs do too. But I have a big issue.
I'm sorry. He definitely only has PvP clips of him killing big name PvP players. This one is Frostbolt. The next one's Grenadier Jake.
Cater towards veterans,
and then the one after that is Cammy Cakes.
Because while getting into a game can be overwhelming if it has...
But I was looking, I saw it, I was like, oh, it's Frostbolt. And the next clip, I was like, oh, it's Grenadier Jake. I know that guy. Oh, it's Cammy. I was like, wait a minute. I hope people aren't taking clips when they kill me in PvP, because I'm terrible at PvP. There would be a lot of them.
Are randomly missing like Swiss cheese. What's happening with the story? Nobody knows. Just play the newest DLC and pretend you know what went down in the previous $600 of removed storyline. Oh, you don't understand why you just created an account and you're level 1,600? Well, that's just a number to tell you how much you've missed out on. Don't worry about it. I get that new players want to play with their high...
I never thought about it like that. How confusing must it be as like a new light player that you log into you create your character and you're in your very first mission and your level is 1,600, but when you walk into the game is 1,000. That must be the most confusing thing on the planet. Oh, I didn't even think about that. That really does just kind of say like, hey, you have missed 1,600 power levels worth of content. Enjoy the new Light Destiny experience, which has no campaigns because we removed them all. And, that's rough. I
leveled friends, but instead of removing the early game, why don't you just make it more enjoyable and rewarding enough for veteran players to want to replay it with their newcomer friends? Playing Destiny 2 has been one of my most profoundly miserable gaming experiences. Why? 2,000 hours. 9 years, $700, and I'm somewhat low leveled with suboptimal gear, and I'm missing a subclass that everyone else seems to have. Next season, I'll be at the power floor, because the floor will rise so much that it undoes any work that I've done this.
Not true. No more power level raises on seasons. Actually, a great change, Bungie, by the way. Hey, listen, I'm fair. I give credit where it's due. No power raise in between seasons. Big W.
Basically resetting me to level 0. Much of my gear will become irrelevant, and the old systems that I've invested substantial time into will be removed. The PvP landscape will change drastically, alongside a host of small UI changes or pointless features like commendations or guardian level. But as seasons pass by, tiny, very fixable issues will linger and drive me insane. Keep in mind that it took Bungie until only a couple of seasons ago to give old exotic weapons PvP kill trackers when Master worked. This is a little number that took them years to add.
You should be able to say like, hey, I feel like this shouldn't take this long, especially considering it's so important to us. But like also, as I don't know, maybe you'll notice about me, I'm a software developer. I don't do game development, but I do like corporate software development. It's typically about 500 times more complicated than you would think it is. And typically as well, different teams work on different aspects of the game. It's likely that the team that like works on like commendations, even though commendations is useless, I 100% agree that that time could have been spent elsewhere. The team that's working on commendations is probably an entirely different team that works on exotic weapon kill trackers. So it's like it's usually not like, hey, do the exotic weapon kill trackers instead of commendations, because it's typically two different teams that are like working on that type of stuff anyway. But
these things are not that bad, but for how many years are they bearable? And those are just the little things. See, every season introduces a new exotic armor piece for each class, but most of the time, one or more of them are immediately removed for weeks on end because of some glitch that Bungie apparently can't seem to figure out.
I don't know if that's fair. I feel like the only two that those have happened to is Falcons and Blight Ranger. I'm like, I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure there's not any others. It happens.
To their benefit, Bungie is able to figure it out in just a couple days. Now, maybe I shouldn't assume that Bungie is being lazy. Maybe these issues really do take weeks to resolve. But if you still give Bungie that much credit, keep in mind, it took them until just very recently to fix the tunnels in the EDZ. Go over to the tunnels, and you'll have a hard time staying in the map. This place is a wreck. I could probably find 30 or 40 areas in here to get out of the map. That was a clip from a video series I did on my old channel.
Bro, I'm gonna keep it a buck. I cannot remember the last time I was in the tunnels in the EDZ.
This turned out to be so easy, I was able to upload these daily. I had found 3 glitches on every planet in only a week. Of course, when I went to check the tunnels for this video, Bungie had cleaned it up, but it sat in a frighteningly glitchy state for about 5 years.
My hot take about like out of bounds stuff is I honestly think it doesn't matter at all as long as you're not falling through the map through like the intended paths, right? So if you like pull out a sword and jump up into the wall and like sword through a crack in the wall, like that's not really that big of a deal because it's like you went out of your way to find that. If you're just kind of like walking and like sprinting to go kill an enemy and then like whoop, you fall right through the floor, that's obviously a problem. But like if there's like an out of bounds in some like random weird arbitrary location, it's whatever, you know? If there's an out of bounds in a location where you can only go out of bounds through that location if you are trying to go out of bounds, then it doesn't really matter that much, in my opinion.
They are just as glitchy, if not glitchier, than the maps that I've already covered. In fact, when I played through the little free intro mission to Lightfall, I was really impressed with how pretty Neptune was. Until I found this just sitting in plain sight. Which made me wonder, how long would it take to be straight up out of the map? About 2.5 minutes later,
who cares? Like it's so insignificant. Like I understand the frustration about it, whereas so many little things wrong with the game is like the straw that broke the camel's back. But it's like, dude, if you're genuinely getting upset over this hole in the cave on the entirety of the planet, it's like there's other things to be upset about in the game. There's other things to have gripes with.
It take to be straight up out of the map. About 2.5 minutes later, I decided that I wasn't going to purchase Lightfall. But despite hating this game, I also love it. The PvP offers a depth to build crafting and strategy that I haven't found in any other first-person shooter. So when I feel like pulling off some crazy 1000 IQ plays and feeling good about myself, I can always turn to Destiny 2. And I definitely feel an obligation to at least check in every once in a while after all that I've invested. But for the thousands of hours and hundreds of dollars, all I really have to show for it is some cool cosmetics.
Do you really have anything to show for anything in a video game, though? Especially like an ever-evolving one. I've spent thousands of hours on League of Legends, and my rank resets every 6 months. The achievements are fleeting. The knowledge that you accomplish something, like that's what video games are for. Not to get a medal that you can pull out of the screen. It's so corny and cheesy, but it genuinely is the memories and friends you make along the way. That's what video games are for.
Two, unless you hate liking things. Of course, you can try it out if it looks fun, but just take it from me. This game has an uncountable number of issues, most of which are here to stay. Or get worse.
Fair enough. I think some of his points like don't really make any sense at all, in fairness. The out of bounds stuff, kind of whatever. The rating stuff, like it just kind of sounds like he didn't like LFG or maybe didn't put much effort into trying to make friends with LFG. I know he said he put effort into it, but I don't know, man. I feel like, you know, you put some good effort into LFG, it's pretty easy to make some friends. And even if you don't make friends, it's really easy to have a good LFG experience. I genuinely believe, and in my experience, you get out of LFG what you put in. I think he's 100% spot on with like the new light experience. The fact that you log into the game and your power level 1600, you know, as a brand new player, you got to look at that and be like, ugh, like that's got to sting. And the DCV, the fact that like 50% of the game is just gone, a lot of which would be like amazing to replace the current New Light experience, where, you know, you have like the Red War campaign for New Lights to play. You can even give them Christmas, you know, give them whatever. Like, you know, a huge part of making sure a game stays fresh, you know, it's not just enough to try and retain your current players, because no matter how hard you try, eventually your existing player base will slowly drip away. You also need to have a constant flow of new players to bolster your roster and to replace the current players that are starting to droop out and dip out. So the fact that the introductory systems and the new light experience of the game is so bad, I feel like it's one of the biggest things that's killing Destiny. I think a lot of people have said like free to play is killing Destiny, and I don't necessarily agree that free to play is what's killing Destiny, but I think the fact that the free to play experience is so bad is what's killing Destiny. If Destiny had free to play, but the free to play experience was exceptional, then free to play would be saving Destiny. But the reason people say free to play is killing Destiny is because all these people are like, oh, Destiny's free to play, I'll give it a try. But the stuff that is free to play is so confusing, weird, and makes no sense that the result is, oh, I tried the free-to-play version of Destiny. It was so confusing. I had no idea what was going on. So why would I invest money into a game that just left me confused and had no idea what was going on? That was cool.